here we are. What's up? Hello. It's like I forgot what I was doing for half a second there. I was like, oh, what are we about to start a live stream or something? No big deal. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a episode. Oh, it's not episode 6. Hold up. This got to be fixed right now because this is the wonders of technology. This is episode 7. And we are doing this digital stone soup. So we're going to share a little story today that is focused on kind of getting us excited about sharing community resources. We have got a squad here in the background. Let's pull this up. Let's see who else is popping in here that we can add to scene, add to scene, add to scene. Hello, everyone. So we've got a squad forming in the background here. We will bring those folks in just shortly. This is a public planning meeting, the first of what we think will be many of like this, specifically 3 leading into the Global Open House. So we're going to talk all about how this is going to play out. Here's a little outline of what we're going to run through. So we're going to run through some dates that you should probably mark on your calendar. We're going to go through story time. Then we'll go through into the planning process. We're going to talk about the history of the event. We're going to get interactive with the folks that are in the background with us here. We're going to talk and kind of set deliverables and expectations for this year's event. We're going to delegate a few responsibilities, and then we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what's coming up after that. So that's a rundown of how this show is going to play out. Colleen, any thoughts as we go here?
No, I can't wait to dive in. We've never done this before, and I always have fun with the Global Open House every year, so I can't wait to get started. So thanks all for coming.
I also just real quickly wanted to say happy birthday to Colleen. We're not going to make like a big deal about it, but if you see her online, if you're friends on Twitter, send her a DM today. Special day for all of us. Some of us don't really like making a big deal about it. And anyway, I think we should make a little bit of a big deal about it. So happy birthday, Colleen. We all appreciate and love you. We can get like, should we all just sing right here on the stream?
Oh, we got a lot to go through.
No, I'm kidding. Okay. All right. So save the date. Let's get into the save the date. Lots of things coming up. No stream next week. We will be back the week after, but we'll be in Buenos Aires. So keep an eye out. This Thursday, we're doing a stream with the Edgar Allan folks, Webflow Cafe. We'll be talking about that as it's coming up. Other key events to kind of look out for this week is Flow Party's having their 1-year celebration this Wednesday at 1 p.m. I think Melissa is in the comments. Who's in the comments here with us? Let's look at the comments real quick. Okay, Maggie's in the house. That's right, Colleen. Happy birthday, Colleen. Okay, Tony's saying what's up. Michael Rose here. Kevin Levin. Hello from New Jersey. Susan McPhee. Hello from Massachusetts. Pablo Cortez. What's up? Content Nest. Hey, hopefully see you in the background. Brandon, what's up? Penny, hello. Melissa, hi. Let's see who else is here. Brianna, Emmett, I think it's in the background too as well. Ankita, I think I saw her back there. Brianna, let's see. Aviv, Colin, everyone's here. Evil Twins, what's up? Hello, welcome. Thank you for being here. Again, Flow Party's birthday bash this Wednesday. Digital Stone Stoop is today. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. Go check out stateofflow.io for all of those key events. Our next planning meeting, I think, is February 7th. Colleen, didn't you? You had a... Yep. Okay. So I think that's a month from today. That gives us a week to kind of plan and prep and do all the things we need to do. If you're watching this and you're thinking, I don't have a group, I don't know how to get involved, that's okay. Part of this process is getting you ready for the Global Open House. And so if you're thinking about, a couple people have reached out and said, hey, we just started a meetup, we want to get involved. This is the perfect place, and we'll explain why as we go through the rest of this. So, all right, let's get into Digital Stone Soup. I'm going to take just a couple minutes and kind of tell this story. I'm going to go full screen on me for this here, just so we can record it for posterity. But if you maybe heard this story as a kid. It's a time-tested fable about sharing community resources. And when I heard it as a kid, it was something that kind of came to me about a year ago. I was thinking about kind of this story again. And Digital Stone Soup goes a little something like this. It's a variation on the old story. So a group of, let's say, digital explorers, us creators, walk into a village, right? And this village is the internet right now. And in the old story, they walk into this village and they've got a pot, right? But our pot is like a digital pot. It's like this cauldron that we're building. It's these digital tools that we're building. And so imagine we walk into this village, we got a big pot and nothing to put in it. So there's nothing really to eat. And people are kind of looking at us hesitant. They're like, well, we don't really want to play. We don't really want to get involved. And so imagine this group gets together with their digital pot and they put a stone in the middle and they start boiling this water. And they start curling around, like huddling around this cauldron, and they're boiling this stone soup. And the first villager walks by and he's like, oh, what are you guys doing over here? And they're like, well, it's an old family recipe. We're making digital stone soup. And the guy goes, huh, that's interesting. Sounds delicious. And they're like, yeah, it's amazing. You should stick around and get a taste for yourself. But it's missing a little garnish. It could be so much better if we had a little bit of carrots. And the villager goes, I have carrots. And so he runs back to his place and he comes back with the carrots and they start chopping the carrots up. And the next thing you know, another villager's coming over and he's like, hey, what are y'all doing over there? And they're like, we're building digital stone soup, or we're making digital stone soup. And so they say, oh yeah, they repeat the spiel and they're like, it'd be great if we had some celery. And then it happens again with some onion, and then a little bit of meat, and then a little bit of this ingredient and that ingredient. And next thing you know, the whole village is like around this cauldron that started empty with a bunch of strangers with no resources. And at the end of the session, they pull this stone out of the boiling water. They have this beautiful soup, and the whole village eats off of the shared resources that, they built in that moment. And I think we're kind of at a time where, like I said, our digital cauldron is these tools that we're kind of building all around us. There are these things that, like, it's the no-code world. It's the visual software development. It's what we're seeing grow in community. It's like all of these things are kind of happening around us, but in a digital realm. And I think as the folks who build these experiences, I think it's incumbent on us to really take a little bit more ownership and responsibility for how we contribute to that soup. How we collaboratively get together and build some things. And what you'll see this whole state of flow thing become over the next few months, year, et cetera, is really an experiment in community media, in brewing a batch of digital stone soup that none of us could do on our own. Like, we each are kind of like this empty vessel. We're each kind of bringing a little bit of skills. We're each kind of like a villager that has an ingredient to add to the pot. And maybe individually our ingredients are not that exciting, but together, all kind of in the village, like next thing you know, it's going to be a party, right? And so that's just the little story that I want to put at the core of starting this conversation for everyone that's out here with us. I don't know. We'll take it from there. I'm going to go to the next slide. Let's set the goals a little bit for the planning meeting. Colleen, do you want to kind of go through these as we get into the actual public planning process here?
Sure. Happy to. So part of this, I'm going to jump a little bit ahead, was excuse me, got a frog in my throat there for a second there. So I still do. So Raymar's going to take a drink on Raymar's going to take a drink on my behalf. So goals for this planning meeting. So this is something that we have not done before. So feedback is welcome along the way. But part of what we want to do is kind of go through a little bit about what this event has been in the past, so that everybody kind of understands where it's been. And I think having that foundation of kind of what we've done in the past can help with informing and guiding moving forward into the future. These events aren't possible without having everybody collaborating. So if you are interested in becoming part of a committee and contribute, bringing your carrot, your potato, whatever it is that your skill set is to this event, we just ask that you follow through with everything that you say that you're going to do and actively contribute, not just raise your hand and then just think that you can disappear and that's it. That this isn't, as a community event, isn't going to happen without everybody's active participation. And as part of that active participation, one of the things that we're going to brainstorm a little bit about today is ideas for speakers, ideas for ways that we may want to change the gather map that we've used in the past for this event. It's been very helpful and has really allowed for the event to be a very good event, but we know that there were a few things that didn't necessarily work last year. And so we want to improve on those. And there's probably things that we haven't even thought of before. And so we'd like to hear, how that map and space can be made even bigger. Each year, this event is bigger and better than the past. And so we'd like to reach even a bigger audience this year. What does that mean? What should we do in terms of marketing or event programming or just anything in order to make that happen? And then we also want to start getting into delegating basic responsibilities. So while March may seem like it's a really far into the future, we all have other things that we're doing and time goes by pretty quickly. And that next planning meeting is going to be here very soon.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and Colleen was just trying at the beginning there to be real gentle about saying that if you commit to doing something as part of this committee, we really need you to live up to that commitment, because we'll just be operating as if you're going to deliver on the goods. So, Okay, so we're going to set some outline expectations for the event. We're going to talk a little bit about brainstorm and speakers, like Colleen said, the map design, how to reach the audience, and we're going to delegate some basic responsibilities. But before we do that, let's take a look at the Global Open House last year, and this is going to set the stage for kind of what's coming this year.
Even though it feels like now it's starting to come of age, it is really still the early days of the no-code community. So everyone that's here, everyone that's part of this, you are the pioneers, still like trying to figure out the boundaries and push the boundaries.
The only way to create something positive is to share it with the next person and the next person, and you get something back when you share.
We really, really believe that without this community, the power of visual development, the power of no code is only going to be like a tenth of what it can be.
It's great to just be roaming around and hopping into different rooms and seeing what people are talking about.
I feel like I just took like another step into this amazing world.
It really is the closest thing for a conference that I had virtually.
The concept of a metaverse space where you can actually connect with people synchronously, that increases the probability and the ability for you to build a relationship.
I think it, comes down to, the tools are going to get better and better, but eventually it's about, how you use them and the story you're telling, and that's how you connect.
Through this event itself, Raymmar, what you guys are doing and what we do and what I do, all of us, what we're trying to do here is to build the on-ramp for the next billion people who have never heard of no code but could be beneficiaries of no code.
Thank you very much for the event. It was as cool as last year, way more cooler than last year actually, and I can't wait for the next.
I think that part of community is that we all have sort of a shared passion, and with that's Webflow.
And I'm very chuffed to be surrounded by such warm people and such giving people. So from my side, yeah, I'm tearing up now.
Yeah, it's just this community is amazing. This community is something special. Just listening to y'all, find a way to plug in. This community will give you so much back if you put in just a little bit of work.
This entire event was a massive success. I thought it was going to be great. It exceeded my expectations.
All right, so it was a special experience last year and the first year, and this year is going to be even better. So as a theme for this year, we're going to carry forward some of the momentum from last year. The concept last year was why no code and community go together like peanut butter and jelly. And so last year we were kind of talking about these tools and the momentum that's kind of brewing in the space. This year we're going to talk about how we can use those tools to kind of build a better internet. Right? So how can we, as the people who are building these things, start working together? And you're going to see this theme kind of reoccur throughout this experiment, through other things that we do. Like, we are the folks that are building the future of the web. So like, it's incumbent on us, like I said before, to kind of take ownership of that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this view. Let's see if we got added to scene. Everyone should be open and available to jump in here. I'm not sure how this is all going to go, but this is how we're going to play. So we're using Video Ninja instead of Zoom in the background here, but that just means I can jump around and highlight different people in the background here and have a lot of fun as we go through and have like a discussion. And we hope as we do this, we'll just, I don't know, have a lot of fun figuring out how to do this in public. Typically, this would be a Zoom meeting that would be closed off, and we'd have some kind of recording in the background. And so anyway, Colleen, thoughts?
And I was just going to say, before we maybe start to kind of get into the conversation, if you are not in the Zoom room, or I'm saying Zoom room, even though it's not Zoom, if you are not in the shot and you are in the comments and you would like to join live, there is a link that is currently in the YouTube description. And if you click on that link, you will be able to join in. You'll be muted when you join in, and just ask that you mute your YouTube tab so that we don't have echoing if you do decide to join.
Yeah, jump in there.
And if you're here, please join in.
Yeah, feel free to pop in. There is I think there's like a raise your hand, so you can raise your hand if you'd like. You can also, there's a little chat, live chat, so you can also throw yourself into the chat. Yeah, I'm seeing Raymmar's a bit louder than Colleen, so let's see if maybe I'll turn myself down a little bit. Okay, so setting the stage, Global Open House. The first time we ever did this was going into COVID. all of us are like meetup organizers. I think we have Mason back here. Who else? Zach was there. I see Adrian in the background. Aviv, Brandon. Who else was there? If I miss you, I'm sorry. In that original group, basically, like we were all meetup organizers. We all had like a meetup or some kind of thing happening in the space, and then like the world froze up, and we're like, oh shit, what do we do? And so everyone's kind of got to like figure out how to do their own online thing. And we're like, hey, instead of all of us doing one little individual online event, what if we all just got together, did one big event, said it was planned by us as a community, and then use it as a recruiting tool to like grow some hype around our groups? Because it's much easier when there's like 100 people around for you to be like, hey, you want to come hang out with us in Minnesota or in Seattle or Atlanta or wherever the group was at the time. And so it just became this initiative where we're like, let's do it together, and it became amazing. I think I remember getting a Slack message. I'm trying to think. It wasn't a Slack message. It was in a conversation with Vlad. He said something about like this was sending shockwaves through the internal Slack channels when the meeting was happening because they didn't expect what happened at the event. And so I think the second year, which was last year, we did have a little bit of expectations for like, okay, this is going to be a cool thing. But this year, what I want to see is, can we take it to that next level? Last year was this very like unconferencey type vibes. We had lots of breakouts, we had a good panel discussion. But this year, it's like, can we take it to the next level? And so that's why we think getting as many people involved here as possible. We didn't have the reach we have now in this community. We didn't have the collaborators we have now in this community the last couple of years we did this. And so the ability to now make this event about everyone out there in the audience and use this as a platform, like, so if you're out there, you should see this as a platform to elevate yourself. Like you should see this as an opportunity to like elevate your group, elevate your standing in this community, take your involvement to the next level. Like, and our goal is going to be that whatever contribution you want to give, as long as it's in line with building a better internet and kind of the frame that we're going to build around this event, that you should be able to get involved. So with that being said, anybody in the crowd, let's bring the crowd into this. Let me make sure everyone's added here. Added, unmute, add, unmute, add, and unmute. Hello, squad. What's up? Okay. So anybody in the crew right now that's talking or that's hanging out with us want to share? Were you at Global Open House? Any thoughts about why you're here this year? Let's just have a little bit of discussion on kind of everything we've covered up to this point. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to get in, we can bring those comments in as well. So yeah, let's jump right in. Anybody have thoughts that has been at a previous Global Open House? Somebody that's been around the Webflow meetup space for a while? Or even someone who's new, who's like excited to be here, like feel free to jump in and share your thoughts, raise your hand, just take the mic. Go ahead, Aviv.
So, hi everyone. I wanted to say that part of the great experience and great interactions that the actual event had, the organization process was a really great place and a way to meet people and connect with people, with like-minded people, with no-code developers, designers, Webflow enthusiasts, like with everyone from the community. I know that personally for me, I had like great benefits from that. I met people that I later and still today work with, collaborate with, share ideas, and made friends through that process. It was amazing. It's just something that we should keep doing.
Yeah. I think that's the fun of all these types of things, is just getting so many people into the space and helping kind of grow some of those relationships. So yeah, anybody else want to share some thoughts there? And then if you could, just feel free to mute yourself in the background if you're not chatting. Maggie?
Hey, yeah, so I just wanted to say last year's timing was perfect for us because we had just started No-Code North, and we got a chance to introduce it there and have our own booth, which was really fun. I think we didn't have a ton of people. I think we had, at some point, we had 8 to 12 people. But a few of the Canadians that we met there have been members of No-Code North since then, very actively in our Slack channel, and yeah, so that was really great to get to introduce our new community, brand new community at Global Open House.
Yeah, and just going through some screenshots here in the background.
Hopefully other people get a chance to do that as well at this one.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons that we, set things up the way that we did last year with having sort of the how to start a group training before Global Open House, was so that, and the No Code North, you and Jeremy and Penny really took advantage of that. So that was great to see. And so for this year, we're kind of doing something similar. As you saw on an earlier slide, we're talking about in February leading a little bit of a series on how to start a group. So, and then you can use, as part of the Global Open House event taking place, a chance to launch your group and meet people that you might want to recruit for your event, whether your group is going to be virtual or hybrid or in person.
Yeah.
So I hope to see more of that.
Let's see Yaya. Maybe thoughts on why getting involved this year, because I don't think you were involved last year. So what I know you were at State of Flow and you've been helping with the website in the background here. So maybe share some thoughts on why you're getting involved. Or you're muted, by the way. Hey Yaya, you're muted.
Oh.
3 years into this, still can't figure out when to unmute myself. So yeah, I mean, for us, this was such a big eye opener. We were kind of, when starting Shadow and like going into the agency world and then eventually going into Webflow, we were doing everything on our own and figuring out everything on our own and trying to act like we have all the answers kind of thing. And, by keeping our secrets close to our chest, nobody else can compete with us. And that was completely the wrong approach. And starting with State of Flow at the end of last year, then the Webflow Conf, and then all the other events since then, it's just shown me that by collaborating with others, you're not just helping yourself, but you're helping others and you're helping the community as a whole. And I've said this before, and it's the whole notion of, we're not fighting over the crumbs, but we're working together to make the entire pie bigger. And in the video that you just showed, Raymmar, Vlad was talking about how we're still very early, and that's so true. If you look at the percentage of websites that are on Webflow, if you look at the percentage of people that even know about Webflow, you walk into any public space right now, into any coffee shop, and ask the room who knows about Webflow, probably nobody or maybe one person is going to raise their hand. So I think by us working together and just building that community and building that momentum, we're helping out each other, and in return, you're helping out yourself too.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of what is brewing in this new economy. We talked a little bit about kind of what's coming and, focusing on building the future of the web. And I think there's a new collaborative spirit that's brewing in communities like this, where there's this co-petition concept, and we're like more interested in working together than we are in kind of competing against each other. And I think it's important for things like this to kind of brew and take shape, because they help hold it together when things get more competitive, because in a few years it's not going to be as friendly in the space. Hey Mason, how you doing? Thoughts here on like open house or anything else that's going on here in the conversation?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Like the new platform, and two things that I've been thinking about. One, I love the idea of building a better internet, and I think as a general overarching theme. And the two things that I want EA to help bring to the table, or two things I would say so far, is, and can I screen share?
Yeah, I think so. You can. I'm not sure if I'm ready to bring it in actually.
Okay.
Is there a URL you can send me, or?
Yeah. I'm gonna Slack this out. But really, it's just like, give me a second here, and I'm going to. So I actually took it as a challenge from the last open house, which is how to build out the kind of influence within Webflow for the Spanish-speaking community, specifically in Latin America. And I took the screen grab from there, and this is something I've so I'm going to tweet this to you. But there's just a huge opportunity. I'm so glad that you're heading down to Argentina here in just a little bit. There's a ton of activity that's happening there. But you can see, like, within the open house, there's a lot of activity in Europe, a lot of activity in North America, or within, like, United States and getting into Canada, and then very little in South America, and then like there's very little in Africa as well. But I think we've been able to make a dent, at least within Argentina. So I really want to help to, grow that. And Carlos, I see you on here. And the other thing that I'm really wanting to help push is, I think if there's any fault of the Webflow community, it's like sometimes we can be so insulary in terms of like thinking about only Webflow and thinking that no code is really the only path forward. What we've been trying to talk about a lot is that Webflow is a great, what we'd say is like watering hole. It's where like multiple disciplines should be able to come together, from the least technical to the most technical, to build really great things, to build that better internet. And so what we're doing a lot is actually, this year we're going to be focusing a lot on like how to do more with JavaScript, how to make JavaScript approachable for no coders. And so how you can no code and then really start to no code. There's a ton, like all of a sudden, and I think that the analogy that I think of is that for about 12 years, for anyone that's been in this a while, there was the talk of the year of mobile is coming. It was like the year of, and it started in around like 2000. And it was like, the BlackBerry, and everyone was like, year of mobile is coming, year of mobile is coming. And all of a sudden, like the iPhone comes out and it's like, the year of mobile is here. And I think the same thing is happening within AI, where it's like everyone was hyped about, it's like there was all this like sort of fluff about AI, but now it's like, it's actually here. We're using it in client work, and we're actually using it in programming. And so I want to be able to talk about like how to be able to declaratively start to write JavaScript and how to understand the fundamentals of programming, so that you can just know, like, it's like Stephen King said, like, to write as human, to edit as divine. And it's more like to write as AI and to edit as human. So it's that human in the loop. So those are the things that, if there's communities that we're really excited about, that's kind of what we're thinking about. And anyone that wants to help join in those conversations, just really love to have that and try it again. Like, last year we were very intentional around trying to establish ourselves as like a, world leading Webflow agency. And it was like a real, like, it was a goal. It was a very intentional goal. And now I just want to like break out of the Webflow bubble and try to bring more people into the space that are actually like have nothing to do with Webflow.
Yeah. It's amazing how in line that is with like what we talked about in the last episode and what we're kind of trying to do with the State of Flow thing. I didn't pay Mason to come and say any of that stuff, by the way. But last week we talked about exactly that. And you're going to start seeing that from State of Flow. Like Webflow is going to be the anchor, because it's the thing we use to build these digital properties that the whole world kind of interacts with our content. However, it's a multidisciplinary skill set that brings us on the backside. And what really powers this community is not Webflow. It's the power to create things on the web. And Webflow, again, I'll say this over and over, is the best tool for doing that in a lot of ways when you're talking about web interfaces. But there's so many other things that like tie this thread together. And I think that's something, it's like maybe we can go into the goals for this next 2023 event. Let's do that. Let's go into this smaller shot here. Because the goal for this event is really to do what Mason's talking about here, which is step up into that next level. And we'd love to do that with meetup groups, with events. Some of these things are coming out of like our individual pockets to fly internationally, to do different things, to host events, to sponsor events like State of Flow. Obviously, we have a lot of great sponsors and agencies in the community. Like, it's not possible without the financial support of like all of you. And so anyway, goals for this upcoming event: world-class panel discussion at the event. So we want to have like a marquee live panel discussion. Last year was great. We had Vlad open the show. We'd love, Vlad, if you're watching this at some point in the future, anybody at Webflow, we'd love to have you open the show again. We will be reaching out about that. We hope we'll be able to do that. But the panel discussion, who can we bring in? So start thinking in your heads, like, who can we invite? Who can we really do? Talking about building the a better internet. Like, at the top of the list, like, who's at the top of our, like, Colleen and I were talking about this little clip that I'd done a while back. I played the recording for her, and she's like, well, can we get him for that? And so like that, and I was like, oh, I don't know, that's too much, it's too big, that's too crazy. And she's like, well, let's think big. So that's kind of where we're headed. So we're going to be tapping all of the resources to try to find who that is, who those people are, to be a part of that panel and multiple panels. Exceed 22 attendance and engagement. We think we had about 1,000 plus people come to the event. There was like 200 and I think 15, 20 concurrent and gather any given time, but it was like that for 4 or 5 hours. So we would like to blow that out of the water. I think Gather has a max capacity of 500. Let's burn it down, right? Like, let's crash the server again this year, but in like a really good way. Launch and elevate emerging communities. So this is what Mason was talking about. There's so many communities out there, and I really think like we have to, as a community, make sure that we're not just looking at, you know, like the top 5, 6, 8 people doing things in the community, and really start branching out into like, where are these emerging markets? Who's doing the cool stuff? One of the things, who was the group? Help me, Colleen. Vimilan?
Was it
No, that
Germany?
They showed us all the they had this article where it was like, hey, here's the real like community stuff, and it was like all these nominees that didn't get any attention from Webflow,
from the UK.
that like are so involved in this community. And it's like, how do we find those people, the diamonds in the rough, and really make sure we elevate them this year?
Yeah, the TalkFlow hosts.
Yeah, exactly.
Vimlan and Chase.
And
If I'm remembering,
Yep.
if I'm remembering names correctly. Yep.
Yeah, so really making sure, like, let's find all the cracks and crevices. Like, let's figure out how to, you know, get people doing workshops that maybe wouldn't typically be on stage, or that are just kind of emerging, or that are in a different place. Let's maybe like take the global map where we took the selfie and have like regionalized hangouts. Maybe we can like create zones in there that people can go and hang out with folks in their own language, and really kind of meet and go back to the original core of like the V1 open house, which is helping these groups emerge. You know, Webflow's kind of relaunching their meetup group here. We've gotten some rumblings of that's coming. So like, there's going to be a lot of people coming in that need support, and maybe we who have been here for a while can be that support, especially with this event, right? If you're starting a group, you know how intimidating it is to try to get people to that first experience, that second meeting. Like, maybe host an event before this, get 1 or 2 people excited, and then help recruit for the open house, and use the open house to kind of pull in more momentum. Now you have 2 events under your belt. So we'll talk about how you can kind of like maximize that if you do want to get involved. We're going to formalize this experiment. So as you see, this is not taking place in Gather. We're kind of getting creative in how we bring folks in. So we're going to continue to experiment with this and this format and the type of content we create as a group. That will continue at the Global Open House. So one of the things we're going to figure out is like, how do we make it a fun, engaging experience? And then establishing a structure for this State of Flows committee that's not centrally controlled. Up until this point, everything that we've planned, everything that we've organized has kind of been Colleen and I in a room with like 2 or 3 people tied to that initiative. We would like to now create a bunch of different channels and rooms for people to kind of like grow and build and do their own thing with our support, with our resources, with our connections, with all our backing, but with them not having to have any kind of real central oversight as to how you publish, how you organize. Just if you got a good idea and you present it in a way that makes sense and it aligns what the initiatives are, we want to give you carte blanche to publish on the website, to create events, to maybe publish on our YouTube channel, to whatever. You know, we're going to try to figure out how do we share all these resources. And so that's really, going back to the digital stone soon concept, the goals for the event. So let's jump into specifically what we need help with. And maybe folks in the background, if you want to start thinking about how we can get in, because we've got basically what's going to eventually become a public roadmap for State of Flow. Right now, this is just global open house tasks. I'm not sure what the resolution is going to be like. That could be a challenge here. But we don't expect to kind of go through every single one of these tasks and assign them all today. What we'd like to do is kind of show you the buckets we're looking for help in, and maybe get some volunteers to say, okay, I can help with this, I can help with that, put you all into buckets, and then kind of start you know, the conversation inside of Slack. Before we get into that though, any thoughts, questions? Let's go back to this thing. Let's also go, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Let's go back to this view. And before we go, let's go to this goals. Any other goals that we missed here? Any other thoughts, things we've talked about, like from the gallery here? Do you guys see something that we're missing? Do you see something that we should have on this list as a goal? Is there something we need to remove from this list? Like, I'd like the, you know, like the first kind of collaborative thing we do is to really shape and figure out like what's missing from this goals list, or what can we add, or what needs to be removed. Any thoughts?
What is it that piqued you for signing up and joining the stream here today?
Hi, I'm Kat. I'm really excited to join because I didn't attend last year's open house, but I did get the opportunity to attend the State of Flow event, and it was awesome seeing other people who love Webflow just as much as I do. For background, I'm creative director, designer background. And so getting involved with Webflow, it really, I felt empowered because I could actually design, and then it was real. It became real, and I had the power to do it myself. So besides that, though, I also really enjoy community and building community. So these interests are all aligning, and I love working with the Tampa Bay Webflowers so far. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. All my interests and passions are aligning right now.
Nice. And that's what we want. We want folks who are like excited to be a part of this, who are excited to kind of like, you know, just jump in and get their hands dirty a little bit. Zach, what's up? Oh, sorry, Kat. I'm sorry. Let's go back to Kat for a second. I mean, like, Zach will come to you in a second.
That's all right. That's all right. Sorry, Zach. No, I was just wondering, are we, have we decided on the theme, or is that still something that's up for discussion?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the building a better internet. We kind of want to carry in taking these
Gotcha.
tools. So the general theme is going to be building a better internet. I'm happy to like dive into that. Like, what does that mean specifically? How does that tie to us collectively? Like, I'm happy to kind of explore that like direction. But yeah, we can kind of get creative inside of that umbrella.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Nice. Zach.
Happy birthday, Colleen.
Thank you.
So this global open house event was honestly like one of my first events in this space. And this is really what like drew me into the community. It was right around COVID. And I remember there was like a call for help for organizing the global open house. I had no idea what it was going to be, but I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll help figure it out. And when the event happened, it was so electric and so just mind blowing to kind of be walking around, interacting with all these people. And I made instant friends at the first one. And I remember afterwards, like trying to tell people about it. I'm like, you got these little Super Nintendo characters and you walk around and you try to talk to people. And like, you know, you just had to like be at the event to really know the experience that it was. And, you know, for anyone that hasn't been a part of the event, you know, you're in for it this year because it's so cool. It's so cool to meet up with everyone. And it's such a like real experience over, you know, even though it's, you know, virtual online, it feels like an in-person event.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be the stopgap for us between, so it's going to be like State of Flow will be our big in-person, once a year kind of community retreat. And then this open house will be the online kind of community getting together. And, you know, like I think there's a lot of room to kind of shape and evolve this engagement and what we do. And this is our way of trying to figure out how do we open that up. You know, so for the last 2 years, it's kind of just been us, and we will still shape the direction. I'm not imagining all of our planning will be public like this. This is something we'll do. Like what we were finding is that every once in a while we'd be giving these briefing meetings, and you know, like they're recorded on Zoom and they fall into an archive. And so it's like, let's at least do these publicly. Let's get as many people publicly as possible, kind of talking. It'll help keep us accountable, help keep you all accountable. So maybe if you commit to doing something live on a stream, you're less likely to like abandon ship and not actually deliver on the task. But also, I imagine there will be a lot of planning that happens behind the scenes as well. So as these committees form and as you all kind of start doing the work, I imagine there will be lots of times where you all just kind of get together in Zoom or Slack or even gather on your own to kind of do some of that. So do we go back into these tasks, Colleen? And I think let's share.
Yes, and Mason was saying that he was having trouble seeing some of the tasks. So if we did share to the web, that probably would help.
Web link. And I'm thinking, what's the best place to share this so that it doesn't go out to the world? Can I put it in the chat? Let's see if this works. Okay, I think that should work. In the room chat, if you guys are in the background, you should be able to jump in and see a public version of this roadmap and tasks.
And we are using the subtasks option that Notion recently unveiled. So anything that has a caret, there's additional items underneath. So we kind of have roll-ups.
Yep. Let's look at the comments, make sure we're not skipping anything real quick that might be interesting to keep in mind. One thing that should and must be taken into consideration is accessibility. So having some kind of interpreter or maybe live comments could also, I know YouTube and some of those streaming apps now have live comments, so maybe we can do that. Some more happy birthday, Colleen. Let's see. After Zach Wujazia shared his vibe last year, I hope there will not be more than 500 people and nobody gets left out. Yeah. Still traveling in, checking in. Okay, nice. Okay, cool. All right. So the couple biggest tasks are going to be the gather redesign, right? Like getting that space redesigned and ready for the event is going to be kind of a big task. We have all the size, we have all the specifications. We'd rather not like redesign the flow and layout because people are kind of used to it. But getting places where, you know, we've got a lot of different organizations involved now. Right now, the map's kind of designed as a part of the FinSuite was, you know, obviously the anchor of this event last year. This year, we would like to open it up to more than just a single agency. And so we would like the design to represent the diversity of this community. One of the things we did last year is we let community groups, so if we go into the gather space, kind of build their own little area in the map. Some of you have your own gather spaces. Some of you have like other places that you can link to. So, you know, we have the ability to like add more little houses out here. And I think, can we zoom out? How do I zoom out? Settings. I think there's like appearance. Zoom. Where is it? Use smart zoom. No, I don't want to smart zoom. There we go. Okay. So these were little doorways that, you know, we're supposed to lead to the other areas, and it'd be cool to kind of bring this city area to life. You know, so the goal for this area was to kind of like be a global map for the community. So imagine we build out these little zones here. These lead to all the different gather maps we have. One of the cool things in the map was here, based on where you touch the map is where you would pop into the map. So it would be cool to kind of reskin this map and figure out how we can use this space in a different way. Also, do we want to rethink the navigation, et cetera? So that's going to be a big place. These can all become like advertising panels for other folks. Maybe there's different, again, rooms that we want to connect to. I know there's this little lounge over here where we had Flocella that was used as a club the other day. So do we find another way to just kind of create these rooms and potentials for people to have breakouts? Because in an ideal world, we would have, you know, like more talks than we had last year, and just this thing will fill up. So thoughts right now, anybody on design? Does anybody want to like, anybody interested in spearheading design that's here in the committee? Don't all raise your hands at once. And we don't have to find, you know, like we don't have to get everyone here. We can like, let's see, Adrian in the house. What's up, Adrian? Yaya in the house. Okay, so and Ankita. So do we get like a gather committee right there? Do we just form a gather committee? Let's go into this. So we had, let's see, Yaya raise his hand. Adrian, if you're taking notes, Colleen, and then Ankita for the gather. Anybody want to share thoughts that you might have as you, Ankita, do you want to say anything, or like we're going to put you on the spot here? No? You're muted, by the way, in case you do. No? Nope.
Yeah, sure.
You're muted, by the way, in case you do.
I think it's important to show that. Yeah, sure.
You're muted, by the way.
It's important to show the diversity, like people from different backgrounds are coming in Webflow, so it's important that.
Hang on one second here. Ankita, can you, I think you have your YouTube video playing in the background also, or somebody does there. If you could just mute the YouTube video. Or somebody does there. If you could just mute the YouTube video.
Is it better now?
Somebody does there. If you could just mute the YouTube video.
Is it better now?
Somebody does there. If you could just mute the YouTube we're getting. I'm sorry, we're getting like a pretty bad loop. I'm sorry. Maybe you can share your thoughts in the chat. Sorry, it's like a it's like a loop that it's hard to hear. Maybe it's the problems of the platform. If you are watching in the background, just mute the YouTube video. If you go to the tab, you can like right click on the tab and you can mute your YouTube. That way that won't happen. We'll try it again here one more time. Ankita, try again. Yeah.
Is it better?
Yep.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it better?
Yep.
I think it's still echoing.
Yep.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it better?
Yep.
I think it's still echoing.
It's still it is still echoing.
Okay, looks like we got a couple technical things to figure out. I'm sorry, Ankita. Maybe you can like share. I think she was talking a little bit about showing some of the diversity in the groups, and the different folks around the world who are actually like hosting these groups. And maybe that's something we got to put on the list, Colleen, is making sure that if we're going to have some, we have some standard tech testing, some tech checking, so we can maybe avoid those types of scenarios in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Adrian, did you have thoughts? I'm sorry, Ankita, if you want to share in the comments, I'm happy to share the thoughts that way.
Yeah. And a little bit to what what Yaya said earlier, and Mason, that's getting me really excited. I saw that last year with FinSuite, really elevated their visibility in the community with what they did, their involvement, and sharing all their trade secrets. So, and one of the reasons I got back in today was because I've been kind of not involved in the last, since August or something. I kind of dropped out because I just got so busy. And I have been working on 2 projects that are AI based and 2 projects that are community based. And one we were trying to build it in Webflow's beta membership, and it's kind of on hold right now because there was just too many issues that we couldn't fix without a bunch of JavaScript. And the other one is going to be based on Circle with Webflow in the front end. It's a community and course, and that's been live, but we're pivoting that a little bit and changing up the landing page. So, yeah, I saw when Ankita, she was right in the center of my screen, and when you were going through last year's community, and you're seeing Vlad and everybody talking, and then all of a sudden, I think her name is Vitri, showed up, and Kita's face, I just saw her smile. She lit up. She's like, there's somebody who looks like me who's involved in the community. So I think, when she was talking about more community involvedness, diversity in the community, that's important because, yeah, you see somebody who looks like you and you're like, hey, I'm not the only one. So, and then back to the design, I've got my own gather space. It's, I've been doing I used a lot of the basic gather objects, but I did build a huge background for 3 different rooms in Illustrator. So I think I could do something similar for the different rooms in working with Ankita and Yaya, of course, to create something interesting and cool. I don't know if it'd be quite as cool as what FinSuite did, but we'll see.
Yeah, and we have the existing resources, and I'm not sure we need like a full from scratch like overhaul, which might be the interesting thing to figure out. So I guess that's something for the committee to handle. So and just a heads up as we go into this, like Colleen and I will likely be on most of the committees, so we'll likely be kind of like there just to listen and keep things in track and just make sure everything's kind of aligned with the event. So we're not giving up full reins to the event. We're just trying to like figure out how do we open this up and then create channels that like maybe eventually it becomes, a few people that are just responsible for updating the Gather map in general. And it would be cool, like because so many people have their own Gather spaces, like let's link them, right? Like let's connect them. Let's figure out like we have capacity on this map. If you're using Gather, that stuff gets expensive, right? And so we have max capacity on this thing as a collaboration with the folks at Gather. Like we can do things in this map that we can't do or you can't all individually do in your events. And so if we could have this like as a place where throughout the year, other meetups come to do events, imagine how much easier it becomes for these different meetups to promote their events when everyone just knows it's happening here. Think about the Reloom stuff. Their Josh is doing like meetups all the time. They're like, hey, we're doing in the Webflow Gather. Boom. Everyone knows. Right. So instead of you having to train people for Gather, instead of this other meetup having to do a thing and this other people like, we can all do it in one world, one virtual world that we all just figure out how to build. So maybe part of that committee is like, how do we let people just build a room? And we give you the dimensions of the room. You could build a room, okay, and maps into the space. Like, let's build a real world in there. So I think that could be one of the cool things that come out of this. So, and we can add more folks. I see other folks kind of in the comments here. Let's see. Brianna, what would you think would be the better? Do something in Blender? Yeah. I can help on design. I want to make sure we can create space for others. Yeah. So let's add Mason and Brianna to the chat as well. And nobody that's get added to a list here. This isn't obviously the gospel. Like we can change and update this stuff. So yeah, let's see. Evil Twin says, "Can we help?" Yeah, boom. So there you go. There's 6 people on a gather committee. I think if we can figure out some kind of like regular cadence, I'm happy to just make you all that committee an admin of the space. Feel free to update, edit, whatever. I think the biggest thing obviously needs to be like the cohesiveness, right? Making sure it all feels like one space, at least on the surface levels in the main rooms. But I think the auditorium could use an overhaul. I like the city area outside, so the map could probably use an overhaul, but kind of like the city could, how do we evolve that city into like a real, town hall for this community? And then the co-working space is fun too. Like how do we have that kind of be like an open co-working space? So maybe we define like a couple core areas and then the rest can become a free-for-all. So it might be cool to just say, hey, here's like, 2 little shared areas, maybe a couple classrooms, and then it just splits out. And it might be fun to just clean up the navigation and think about how people kind of get around the map. And maybe even on the globe, one of the things we talked about before was listing all the different meetups. So maybe what we can do is have an effort from the gather committee to have like pins on that globe so that when we're in this thing right here and we all go, like somebody pops into this map here, like imagine, Brandon, like how come I don't see a map, a little pin here with your South Africa meetup? Like that'd be cool. And then you could just, if you want to find a group that's in your area, you just walk on the map and you go to the place where you live, and then you could see like, oh, are there meetups around here? Maybe I should start one. Maybe I could get involved. That would be super cool.
And there's gather features, just to build on that a little bit. There are gather features that we're not fully taking advantage of. So for example, being able to have a calendar in a space. There's functionality that Gather has launched. And again, some of the functionality depends upon what plan you're on, but like there's this vote with your feet concept. So if you're having an event, you can actually have people move around and they can voice their votes for whatever it is. So like if it was a Reloom doing voting for like which designer, which design do you like better, you can have people moving around. And so currently we're not really utilizing some of these features that have been released. And I think that can add both interesting elements for the global open house, but also helping each of us as we're doing, if you're doing virtual events, just make that event that much more special, that much more interactive than just a straight Zoom call.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think since so many people are used to this, we should try to keep like the kind of some of the core elements in place so we don't have to retrain everyone on it. But yeah, that's for the committee to decide. So seeing some activity here, Mason says, I want to host a roller skating IRL after party in Atlanta. I'll be jealous if I miss the Webflow day at the skating rink, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so going back to, I think somebody mentioned that these tasks, like you guys weren't able to see them. I made the whole task board shared to the public, so you should be able to now see those. Oh, flow skate. Yeah, exactly. Can we put the Wix logo on the rats? Hey, now.
Well, we did have the WordPress logo.
Yeah, and I think we may see, like, it may be interesting to have some Wix and WordPress and Shopify and Squarespace folks at this event. Like, what if there was a panel that was like, or what if there was a build off where it's like we have a real simple design and you have to build it in each of the platforms? Or we have somebody building in WordPress, somebody building in Webflow, somebody building in some other platform, Raymmar, etc. That could be really cool too, where like we just see people build instead of like competing all in Webflow. Hey, pick your platform and maybe there's a prize for building something cool. And it's like a simple thing, but it could be cool for other people to see like, hey, how do I start? If I wanted to build a WordPress site, like how would I do the same thing that I know how to do so well over here, over there? And you can see like, oh, it's easier or it's harder or it's good for this or it's not for that. And I think, again, that could just open the breadth of this type of event up. It could make it just a little bit more dynamic. Anyway, so in that context,
yeah, I like
go ahead.
No, I like the idea of a sudden death, sort of a sudden death show-off between WordPress and Webflow. I think that would be quite cool.
Nice.
But I've seen it in a different way, like more of a together, or like finding the best of each and not against. So like having side-by-side builds of each platform, but learning and not trying to overcome the other platform. That sounds like an amazing panel that I would love to participate or see.
Well, and last week on this very stream, we had, I can't remember his name, the Wix guy, the Wix educator. I have him on my Instagram, but I don't remember his name right off the top of my head here. I'll tell you in just a second. Because I got him on Instagram here if I can see him. Maybe not. Anyway, so we talked a little bit about Brandon Gross. Gross? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Don't hold me to that. But he is a educator. He's like the Greener of Wix kind of thing, you know, where he's doing Wix content. And it would just be cool to, like, maybe it's not even building. It could be having a discussion about, you know, how somebody in education at Wix is approaching things and how their community is growing and how the Webflow community is growing and how the shop, like, just having some kind of like discussion about, because this isn't the only community that's growing of people that are building stuff. And most of us are part of lots of different communities. So how do we just, again, bring some of that stuff in as part of this? So maybe that's the next panel, Colleen. We kind of have a good gather panel. The next is going to be like content and kind of like communications. So do people want to volunteer for to be on that? And this was going to be primarily like outreach to folks who might be able to present. This is going to be organizing the panels and the discussions, the breakouts, etc. So that's kind of what this group will be. Does anybody want to volunteer for that? And again, Colleen and I will be kind of on all of these, so you won't be kind of on your own here. We'll be working with you all closely on kind of guiding these. Brandon, did I see you raise your hand? Tancott? Nice. I see a V
and
also.
I guess maybe we haven't talked about this. I guess I was seeing content and then marketing and communications slightly differently. So marketing and communications being helping get the word out, getting the news, you know, we're 3 weeks out from the event, 2 weeks out from the event, some of that. And I was thinking content more as recruitment and who's part of the programming. I don't think it, like, we don't have to be, again, this isn't the gospel. We're just trying to put people into, like, I think right now content, you know, kind of organizing the content. Okay. And then the folks who organize the content will probably lead right into whatever the comms team is going to be, because they'll be the ones giving, you know, like they'll be the ones who know what the run of show is going to be. So I think they'll be working probably hand in hand. So I got Brandon, I have Aviv.
Aiva's raising his hand here. I think Kat's raising her hand. Okay. I see Marseille also on the list for that. And then I see Tony Seats here saying something in the comments. The Webflow PNW, I think that's Pacific Northwest team, has made some moves to reach out to Chris Coyer. Saw someone mention him earlier to attend the Ben meetup in February. Apparently he's a Bendite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is that? I'm not familiar with the name.
Chris Coyer, who CSS design. Is it CSS design tricks? Is that Kyle? Nice. It looks like you're nodding. Am I saying that right? But yeah, quite a force.
Great. So Chris Coyer is the founder of CSS Tricks, which was acquired by Blue Ocean. But yeah, he's a native Bendite. So we just figured that we'd put the feelers out and see if he'd have any interest of attending our little Webflow meetup. He's attended meetups for non-WordPress related things, but I believe that's his native habitat, so to speak. But
yeah,
we're trying.
And Tony, you guys are just starting this group, right? Like, you guys are just kind of kicking this off. So this would be a great opportunity for you guys to, this would be a good pilot for us, honestly, to see if we can offer value to you as you guys launch that group as part of this initiative. So
for sure. That's kind of why we're here.
Yeah. Search historian, I see you with a raised hand. What say you? Or not?
Yeah, not just was raising hand for the
for volunteering. Okay. No worries. Joel Whitaker saying agrees with Aviv. Putting other builders down will only hamper growth for all. Correct. I don't think the goal for the event will be to kind of like show how much better, you know, one tool is than the other. I don't think that would be the objective. I think it would just be to showcase. So we could have like just little workshops. It could, again, I think maybe even just discussions. You know, it doesn't even need to be formal builders, but. See, Chris, okay, guy, would love to see him in space, some capacity. Yeah, okay, so maybe that's a good person to put on the list. So now we have a little bit of a content team. Let's see who. I think like volunteer and logistics can kind of be like the final little bucket that we should throw people into. And again, some of these will get reassigned in different ways as we, as we kind of formalize the process. But let's kind of try to wrap up here with the last committee, which I think could be logistics and kind of operational stuff. And this could be things like helping us with sponsor recruitment, helping us manage volunteers, helping us recruit folks to kind of like on site the day of, to be in Gather to help folks find their way around the map. Sometimes people get lost in there. Sometimes maybe people are floating around and aren't as familiar with the community. Like if you know a bunch of people and you're in Gather, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with these people that I know. But maybe if you don't, it's easier in Gather at least than in real life to walk up and just kind of be in a little huddle. But having people to kind of work as ambassadors and to help day of logistics, maybe finding speakers and stuff like that. So that will kind of be the third and final committee that we'll work to assign today. Anybody have interest in helping on that side?
I see Colin raising his hand. Nice. And I would just add to, and I see Aviv, with part of being an ambassador, one of the but one of the things that would come that when we've done events in the past, I've had people say to me, I'm not comfortable because English is not my native language. And so I would really encourage you, if English is not your native language, there are other people who are feeling that as well. And so having you as an ambassador and welcoming really, really, really helps significantly because I'm able to, go ahead.
What if we had a international committee? Like what if we had a kind of like a regionally, like could we get some anchors? Like could we reach out specifically to because they're probably not on the stream if they're not in this time zone. So can we reach out to some folks who may be doing stuff, figure out how because there's also time issues. There's always when do we do the event? There's always time zone problems and who's going to be able to attend. So I think, maybe the logistics committee can sort some of that out. So Colin, Aviv, myself, and Colleen will kind of tackle some of that stuff as we go. Okay.
And throughout all this, I'm not seeing the hand raising icon. So if you've been raising your hand and I don't connect with you and get you into a Gather.
Go ahead, Adrian.
Well, one thing we did last year in Gather is we had little special helmets to designate who the greeters were and who were the organizers. One thing, if you did have international committees, like someone who's Spanish oriented or Russian or something, to have a little flag next to your name to designate that I'm speaking French, I'm speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah. That sort of thing.
It would be cool to come up with some kind of system for that in the naming so that we knew. The problem we've ever had in the past is then people start seeing it and they start adding their flag or they start adapting to your design just to hey, I want to follow along, and they don't realize what's going on. And so there are some other hurdles that come up in that instance. Let's look. I want to go through the notes here. Okay, what we need help with. Things to think about. This is stuff that could possibly go wrong. Things that might come up. Just a couple things to be thinking about. Something's going to go wrong at some point. Colleen had do you want to tell the story, Colleen? Do you want to share just real quick?
So the first global open house, we're planning. I'm so excited, part of the core team and whatnot. Would you believe I didn't get to go? The reason I didn't get to go was because the morning of the event, we lost internet. And this was also at a time of lockdowns, which means restaurants are closed, Starbucks is closed. So I was not even able to go piggyback at another location to grab internet. I went all around my area trying to do all that. So I had to vicariously after the fact. And so just a long way of saying that, as much planning and as much, there's always going to be some things that are outside of one's control. And that is why these events, it's a team effort. So other people were able to step in and handle the tasks that I was supposed to be doing. And I think Adrian was one of the folks that stepped. I think Adrian and Brandon were two of the folks that helped take over on the. There was a show and tell-ish type of place. So
yeah.
So just roll with it.
Yeah, and we had the first year we had somebody flush a toilet in the middle of the conversation, literally with they were on unmute. And they flushed in the middle of, I think Ransigal was talking or something like that. It was just a hilariously funny moment. But also something we avoided and we learned the second year, okay, the panel needs to be done in a stream setting like this, totally removed from Gather, so that we can stream it out to YouTube, have a really clean recording. People can do the interactive stuff in Gather, but then when it's time to have like the panels and the big workshops, we go to YouTube, and in Gather, you can either play them and watch them live with other folks, or you can just have a separate tab and do the interactive stuff in Gather while we're in YouTube. We'll carry that on this year as we kind of like up the production value and try to take it to that next level again. The event and process should stay flexible. And this, what I mean by this is that there's been over the years, as Colleen and I have planned some of these events, there's always this moment where we have to make a pivot towards the end, where we have to remove complexity, where we have to just like try to do things a little different than we thought we were going to do them when we started the planning process. And I think we need to allow ourselves for that, you know, so don't get too caught up in thinking like we're going to formalize this and it's going to become a super rigid process and like nothing can change. As we get closer and closer to the event, we'll have to shift and just figure out, okay, like how do you know, connect all the dots? Last year we had some random people that popped in and they were doing like religious pandering in the lobby. So like, you know, we'll have to just kind of like keep an eye out for stuff that comes up that we can't think about. And the other thing is having too many cooks in the kitchen. So since this is the first time we open up this process, it could get clunky as we try to figure out decision-making processes and how to balance everything. And so just bear with us as we work through this. We're going to, you know, this is all an experiment for us, just as it is for you, and even just online in general. And so have a little bit of grace here kind of as we stumble our way through this first process. We think it'll be a lot of fun. And for sure, the event will be amazing. If you're watching and hanging out, Colleen can probably share stories about it's going to feel chaotic. It's going to feel crazy. You're going to be like, oh my God, it's never going to come together. You're going to like wonder what you did volunteering to be a part of this. And like, and then the day's going to come and everybody's going to be so excited. And you're going to be like, holy shit, it's over. And you just be like, what? And then there'll be this hangover after and you're like, oh, what did we do? So anyway, Colleen, this year we have to have an after party, by the way, so we don't like all go into that planning hangover solo.
Yeah, if you look at the task list, you'll see I did add an after party for that, and so and you know, just to build on all that, you know, if you are feeling stuck or overwhelmed or not sure or something isn't going right or any of those things, I mean, Raymmar and I are very approachable, so tell us. Because we want this to be it's been a good experience for us in the past, or at least it hasn't been for me. I think so for Raymmar as well. And we want it to be for everyone else as well. So
this is a good question I want to address from Joel here, asking, will the sessions be recorded this year, as well as the panels? That was the only downside as a speaker last year. And he followed up saying the fact that we couldn't watch others. Because of the format of this event, it's so difficult. Like each kind of panel would have to record their own screen recording. We could get some volunteers to be in each of the panels and record what happens in the sessions. However, when you turn the cameras on, you change the dynamic of what's happening in the space, and you go more to a presentation. People expect more of a presentation, where I think one of the really key factors of the last year's event was that it was kind of just an open, candid conversation that was very ethereal. And so I don't know. I think we could for sure have like a main stage where we have like all of that happening through a system like this, where we could stream it and kind of, you know, like solve that problem in another way for at least the core talks. But I think there's something kind of necessary to create the type of event where it's like, you almost don't want it to live on. You kind of want it to be that ethereal, had to be in the room type of moment. So I don't know, Joel, that's a good question. I think we do need to think about that as a content team, but I'm not sure it's a problem where we can solve.
Yeah, I think there's some technical hurdles. And then the other thing is too, it's really easy for folks to say, oh, it's recorded, I can catch it later.
Yes.
And then you miss out on the energy of the event. You know, you miss out on connecting with someone misses out on connecting with you. So definitely a balancing act on some of those pieces.
Yeah, and I see people jumping off. We're a little over our 1 hour time here. I think we blocked to 1:30, but I think we can kind of end on these thoughts here. If you do need to bounce, we appreciate you. I've seen some people jump off and say so in the comments. So anyway, thanks for hanging with us. If you've been hanging out, and let's see, getting involved. There's a link in the video description if you'd like to take the next step. So if you'd like to be in the panel, if you saw some of the committees and you want to jump into any of that, this is the time, place, and way to make it happen. The links are in the description of the video. So there's an Airtable form if you have not filled that out already. That'll get you an invite to Slack. If you volunteered for a committee after this stream, you will get an invite to that committee Slack channel. We do have like a number of committees that we've outlined, but like you saw today, I think we're going to compile them into just these kind of 3 host committees, and then those will break down as we get more nuanced and as people kind of come on and get assigned responsibilities. We will have these planning meetings. Like I said, February 7th is the next public planning meeting. However, between now and then, a lot of things have to happen. So if you're in this group, keep an eye on Slack. If you volunteered to be a part of one of these committees, keep an eye out for committee assignments. This will probably require like meetings between now and then. So we will be scheduling those kind of individually as a group. So feel free to, like just make sure you keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. We'll follow up with everyone here. Colleen, any other thoughts? And then we can maybe bring the group back in and see if they have any other final thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, we do try and we do try and really respect everybody's time. We know that all this is a lot of volunteer time and volunteer effort, and that there are other things that we all need to be focusing on. So, we try and make sure that everything is kind of as succinct and as respectful of time as we can.
Yeah. I see there's just a few of you left here. Any thoughts from the committee in the background? Any closing thoughts? Joel did have a...
I don't know that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know that I'm on the committee. I haven't committed myself to anything yet, but I had major FOMO last year because I missed attending. So I will participate in the capacity that I can this year, and I'm super excited about it. I'm very thankful for what you guys have done. That's all.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you. Kyle?
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot. First, thanks for setting this all up. But as we're Webflowers and people who have been in this a lot, the learning curve can be pretty steep and also really intimidating. And so I don't know if there's I don't know where this is going. This is just kind of a general thought, is to expand the audience and broaden it. If there's any sort of, I don't know if it's a panel or breakouts that are really geared towards you're new to this. Here's where,
maybe this is
here's
where
where
you
you can start.
Event. Do we have like an advanced track, an intermediate track, and a beginner track, or something like that, where it's there's at least some of the discussions are geared up to be like, hey, if you're a beginner, here's the few people you should go, and they're going to be targeting that. If you're advanced and you want to get into the weeds, then here's a room for kind of those discussions, and that, so maybe this is the year we add a little bit of tracking, some tracks to the conversation to help. I like that idea.
I like that too. I like that also because that helps if you're trying to decide what session or where do I want to go. Oh, this is, maybe, that may help you make a decision about where to spend your time.
Nice.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who I'll say oh, yeah, you should totally use Webflow. It's great. And then they get in and they're just there's it's advanced so much. So yeah, I think tracks could be a good thing, or even just discussions of what were some rakes that I stepped on that when you first start using Webflow, so that people can kind of also see that there's other people going through this as well. So just a thought.
I will say that the way it worked out last year as it relates to kind of the conversations was pretty ethereal. That was like a last minute pivot where we were just like, let's make it open. And we liked how it turned out. But I think taking kind of what Joel said and what you're saying here and kind of figuring out how to maybe add a little bit more structure so that it's still that open vibey thing, but that maybe it's a little, because I don't think there was even a really firm agenda, Colleen, where people could look and see who's talking where. We had some basic assignments, but it wasn't wayfinding to the places was not the clearest. So maybe that's something we need to think about, is how do people actually discover who's presenting, what they're talking about, and where to go kind of listen to that. So that's something we for sure should address this year. Div rooms,
hey, Kyle.
798 for beginners. Nice. Go ahead.
Just wanted to say, I was thinking something really similar, how to get that the learning curve maybe a little bit, shorter, so that more people can, it's a little more accessible. So I did volunteer for the content team, so maybe the two of us can talk more about that specifically.
Love that.
I wanted to raise my hand, but I have to like look at my schedule, and based on what Colleen and Raymmar said earlier, I didn't want to raise my hand and then have to pull out. So I was being sensitive to that, but yes, I'd love to chat.
Yeah. And it could be that on some of these committees, you're not like, I'm hoping this isn't like crazy amounts of time for anyone. The gather design, I think, will probably be time consuming. The web design stuff will be I mean, everything will kind of require some time involvement here. But yeah, let's figure out how, if you want to get involved, to make it fit inside of your schedule and calendar and within what we're trying to do. So. Yeah.
And in some ways, having more people kind of starts to mean less work too. A little bit more coordination on some levels, but there are certain things that can be very discrete tasks. So I think we can work, if you know that, right now maybe it's really, really busy for you, but February is a little bit more open, we can, the planning events, do have some ebbs and flows. So, we can work with that. So just if you are on the fence about getting involved, jump in. It's a great way to expand your network. It's a great way to stretch yourself with, trying new skills, bouncing new ideas. I mean, I've been enjoying watching both Brandon and Yaya have been working on the website and just kind of seeing what their creative processes are and how they go about doing things. So it's always.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff kind of going on behind the scenes, and there has been for a while. I don't think most people see kind of what it takes to pull off some of the things that we've done in the last couple years. And I think that's part of also why this process was important to us, was to kind of showcase like the amount of work, the number of people that touch a project, the way these things come to life. And there's a lot of people building technical products in public, but there's very few people kind of planning and doing like the logistics work in public. And I think as more and more people want to build these type of community experiences, it's important for, them to have some kind of like guideposts and for them to be able to see like, oh, it's, so like that's where we're experimenting. It's like, can we show people a little bit of how they can maybe do this in their own way? And so maybe you're just sitting there watching, taking notes about how you can plan your community growth. Maybe you're part of another community that wants to like step up on the shoulders of what we built over the last couple of years and really kind of take advantage of riding this Webflow wave with us. And I think we'll leave it with this final comment from Flow Parties, which is this will be the online event of the year. And I definitely think it could be. In the Webflow space for the last couple of years, it has been the biggest Webflow meetup of the year, the biggest virtual Webflow meetup of the year outside of Webflow Conf, I think. So from a community organizer's perspective, I don't think there will be a better way to kind of just get in front of the entire community. So again, as a final call, if you're interested and you were not part of this conversation and you'd like to get involved, the links are in the description for you to just kind of take the next steps with us. So with that, Colleen, any final thoughts? Otherwise, we're going to send it.
No, I think this is, I can't wait for March to come, and looking forward to working with everyone. So thank you for being here, and let's work on building that next step of the internet together. Yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks everyone in the background for joining us. For everyone who tuned in, we appreciate you, whether you're watching now or later in the future. This has been a lot of fun, and we will be doing a lot more of this moving forward. So, all right, everyone. Bye now.
Thanks, all. Bye.